We begin with the crisis in Ukraine. Russia is carrying out 10 days of military drills in neighboring Belarus. The Russian Defense Ministry released this video of S-400 missile systems arriving in the country. The Kremlin has also moved troops from Siberia and the Far East for these drills, adding to the 100,000 or more Russian troops already in the area. Meanwhile, President Biden has approved a plan for American troops in Poland to help thousands of U.S. citizens get out of Ukraine if Russia invades. Some critics charge the administration is working to avoid a repeat of the chaotic pullout from Afghanistan.
What people should understand is that the United States does not typically do mass evacuations. Of course, the situation in Afghanistan was unique for many reasons, including that it was the end of a 20-year war. We were bringing a war to an end. We were not trying to prevent a war, as we are certainly in this case. There are a range of means that individuals and Americans can depart from Ukraine, and we've been encouraging them to do exactly that.
CBN senior international correspondent and my co-anchor of Christian World News, George Thomas, is in Ukraine. George, tell us now what's going on inside the country. I know you just landed not too long ago.
Yeah, you walk the streets of Kyiv and, you'd be absolutely shocked to realize how normal things are in the capital city and not even realize that you have probably more than 130,000 Russian soldiers who have practically surrounded 2/3 of the country. But as I was talking to a number of folks here this morning as I arrived, they said, listen, George, you guys just showed up on the scene the last 2-3 weeks, the last 2 months or so. We've been living in a state of war for the last 8 years, since 2014, specifically in the eastern part of the country, in the provinces of Luhansk and Donbass. So they say, listen, we're used to this. But what is absolutely different than what was happening in 2014, Wendy, is that you have this massive deployment of not just troops, but as you mentioned, missiles and other very heavy equipment all along Ukraine's northern, south, and southeastern borders. So it's a very, very different dynamic. The president of Ukraine, President Zelensky, has really this last month and a half really taken a very calm and measured approach, telling people not to panic, that there is dialogue going on behind the scenes, and that peace is a possibility, that he did not want to escalate things. So clearly it's a very different environment and feeling here in the capital.
Yeah, well, there seems like there's some panic in Washington because the U.S. is telling citizens to leave Ukraine, American citizens. Is there a rush to get out of the country?
Yeah, I spoke in the last 24 hours since the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine released this alert for telling Americans not to come into the country, and those who are in the country, like myself, to get out. But those that I've spoken to are still taking a wait-and-see approach. What was alarming was President Biden's interview to NBC News that said that if the war did escalate, did happen, that the U.S. would not bring in troops to rescue Americans. I mean, that's incredible. When was the last time we would leave American citizens in a country not to be able to rescue them? So that's very, very disconcerting for those that I've spoken to. But when I came into the airport, when I came to the country, in fact, the plane I took in from Amsterdam was jam-packed and the airport was full. So again, the sort of sense of calm, but we don't know if it's the calm before the storm.
Absolutely. Well, Orthodox Christianity is the dominant religion in both Ukraine and Russia. How has this crisis caused a rift between believers in these two countries?
Yeah, I mean, historically, the Russian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainian Orthodox Church have been at loggerheads, and primarily because the Ukrainian Orthodox look at the Russian Orthodox and say, listen, you guys are more than just, practicing your orthodoxy, but you are so tied to the Russian government. And as you know, Vladimir Putin and the Russian Orthodox Church are very, very close. And Ukrainian Orthodox Christians are very, very they feel skittish about that kind of a relationship. In the meantime, I was speaking to evangelical pastors in the last 48 hours who are taking this moment of crisis. They've been planning behind the scenes, in fact, since early spring of last year, how to mobilize, how to pray, how to rescue people outside of potential war zones. Keep in mind, for example, pastors in the eastern part of the country over the last 8 years, they've been dealing with this almost every single day. So they have a sort of a plan in place in case things erupt even more dramatically, especially in the eastern part of the country. And keep in mind, the church, the evangelical church today in Ukraine is exploding. It is flourishing. 30 years of freedom since the fall of the Soviet Union. The church is on fire. Thousands of people are coming to the Lord. And it's a really incredible time. But there is also a window that people are concerned about, that if Russia does invade, it would dramatically change the spiritual landscape of this country.
And what about these rumors that we're hearing about Putin waiting until the Beijing Olympics are over to invade? Is there any truth to that?
Well, there is, because, 8 years ago on February 20th, I was actually in Crimea when Russia annexed Crimea. The Olympic Games, the ceremony closes on February 20th, and the Russian-Belarus military exercises also end on February 20th. So that's definitely a date to keep an eye on.
George, we're praying for everybody in Ukraine, and we're especially praying for you to stay safe, my friend. Great reporting as always. All right, we'll talk to you soon.